Did you think anything about the television at the time? I mean, did you?
No. Well, I knew it was going on.
Uh-huh.
I think it was quite unusual when we did it
Mm-hmm.
to be on television. I mean, at the same time that, for instance, in New York, I don't think they ever went on, even though, they used to go on radio.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh boy, when I was in high school, I would live for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it was symphony from the beginning of Sunday to
Mm-hmm.
the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we had the opera on Saturday
Mm-hmm.
and something there it was.
The telephone hour and the Firestone hour and all
Yeah,
those
we
things.
did. I went through all those hours, and the Detroit Symphony was one of the first, and they were really, they got a lot. That was in the year of the Chicago World's Fair, which was a year before or after the New York World's Fair.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it was. It was wonderful. I must say I didn't appreciate the opera so much, but there were times when we heard some really great voices, and my mother said that these people were singing. Some of them were singing when she was a girl,
Mm-hmm.
and they were still singing in the Metropolitan.
Mm-hmm. So, but nobody made an issue about these things being on television. You probably did. You get your hair done or anything like that, or you just went and did it?
No, I took care of my hair for any concert, so there was no question whether I should get it done or not.
Uh-huh. And were the lights hot? They must have been hot in the.
Everybody complained, but I never did.
Mhm.
I was so thrilled to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and to be, just being sitting next to, some of these really, and for instance, there was the harpist, the old harpist was there. Forgotten what his name was, but he was a very good harpist. And my sister played the harp.
Zagira or
What?
Zagira or was it
Zagira.
something?
Yes, it was Zagira. Yes, and his brother was a cellist.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, you said your sister was a harpist.
Yes. Yeah. And I did really know a lot. They have a wonderful harpist now, but nobody seems to know how wonderful she is. They still think there's nobody like, not Zagira. Well, Zagira was very good,
Mm-hmm.
The harpist. But this girl can play scales like a pianist can play scales.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never happened. When I played the Mozart flute and harp concerto, of course I didn't play the harp part, but she kept telling me, Anne told me not to play so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mad because I felt that one thing that they seemed to know for sure was that Mozart he liked faster tempos.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want it messy, but it was so exciting. And well, anyway, this girl, I don't know where she came from, but she came from outside of USA, or she wasn't from Europe, but she spoke a lot of English. She had she didn't have any accent at all, and she just could go, And I was really very disappointed in Anne, but everybody loved her so much.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say anything because it wasn't my business anyway. But anyway, she gave a concert at the other Goddard house,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me if I would like to come and hear and she was so new, hardly anybody knew her, and I'm glad I came because she was very good.
She has wonderful intonation. I mean,
Oh,
she said to me once, she said, I don't know how well I play, she said, but I do know how to tune.
yes. Oh, but she doesn't know how good she is with her fingers.
Mhm.
My sister used to tell me how, and especially Mozart, was so difficult. It was
Mhm.
based on scales,
Mhm.
not about on arpeggios so
Mhm.
much. But she doesn't seem to know how unusual she is.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, I was never like that. Never that modest.
Well, I'd also like you to develop something you said on the phone a couple of days ago when you said you never ever thought you would be in the Boston Symphony.
In the Boston Symphony.
Yeah, it wasn't your plan.
Yeah. No, but I did have a plan, and I'm so glad I did, because I might have missed something. Well, I had been studying with, he was German flutist, first flutist of the Chicago Symphony. And where I was born and where I lived with my family was 100 miles southwest of Chicago. And so I would take the early morning, maybe 5 o'clock train to Chicago, and I would get there in plenty of time, but I had to get out of the train, walk up to uptown Chicago, which about 6 or 8 blocks, and it was always deathly cold. And then I would take the one of the streetcars, the elevated, to Evanston, because my teacher was the first flutist of the Chicago Symphony, but he lived in Evanston, and I had to take that, and that was at least an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And then I had to walk to his house, which was another 6 or 8 blocks. And he would be waiting for me, and he would take me upstairs and close the door, and exactly for an hour I'd play my lesson, which was at least one etude, and it got really exciting when, after I finished all my etudes, I mean there were about 4 or 6 books, which were very, very difficult, and they were composed by a flutist, and then we got into orchestra studies, and that was really fascinating, because he would tell me, at this point, this is a point of the opera, and I knew a lot of operas because my mother sat me down and said, "This is the Metropolitan, now listen." And she used to tell me certain things, and she'd have books on operas, and I was not really crazy about operas, but some of them were very difficult, and surely it was very difficult to play operas. And many years later, my first symphony I played in was at Washington D.C., and there was what did he play? Oh, he was an oboist. That's right. And I lost my music or something, and anyway, he remembered it so well. Oh yes, somebody was sick, and they asked me to come and read it at a performance. And he said, that's very difficult for operas, because they're doing things, and the conductor doesn't warn you that something's going to happen. He's just watching for himself. So if he catches it, then we have to catch it. This was the first oboist. I think he was at the Metropolitan, as an opera oboist. And so he kept telling me the story. He knew everything up here. And he said, "No, this is very beautiful." And he's pretending he's asleep, but he's not asleep, and he's waiting to be killed or something, it's tragedy lurking around. But it was fascinating, and I thought, how does he remember all that? But he did, and well, he just really loved opera, and that's the way people are about opera, he decided. But anyway, it was thrilling, and I really could imagine, if I paid attention, that I could remember every cue just the way he did. Well, I don't think I could sit there and describe everything, because he was so aware of everything. And I was really very thrilled and very grateful. And I read through this I think all operas are difficult, but this had a lot of woodwinds in it. And I did very well, and he, I was thrilled that I could get through it, and I did. I didn't make any mistakes at all. And I thought that was one of the most exciting things. And yet, I'm not crazy about opera like some people are.
And was that a step on the way to the Boston Symphony then?
Yes. Well, I got a feeling what you do in times of difficulty, you know, when you arrive late, this never happened, but if you arrive even 5 minutes, it takes time to get into you have to wait a break in the scene where the activity stops, and then they say, "Come on," and people just practically pushed me to where my seat was, and then because I didn't sit for the whole thing, or I came late because I had to be late, and they couldn't get any other substitute, and so everybody cooperated, and they said, "Nah," and I just went through. It was thrilling. I know we also did Hansel and Gretel, and I never knew it could be so exciting because I wasn't crazy about that story. All right, I really didn't like opera so much, but of course the music was really very beautiful. And
so, how did you get from Washington to Boston then?
That was who is that conductor? He's a wonderful conductor. It wasn't Deems Taylor. He was an announcer, really. But anyway, I think he liked my playing very much, and I paid an enormous amount of attention. And I rarely made any kind of mistake at all, because I studied. I thought, well, I just don't want to slip. And also, I didn't want to. I wasn't easily, bothered. People talked to me. I said, "Don't talk to me," just like that, and they were so surprised. But I thought if I miss something, everything is so dependent on everybody, and so I keep saying Deems Taylor. It was not Deems Taylor.
An American conductor, you said?
No, he's a German conductor, and he was very good, and I'm sure he liked me, and they never expected me to be good at all because I was a girl. Think of that.
Yeah.
And but he never said he was surprised, but I think because he felt if he said he was surprised, that means he didn't expect much from me. And he didn't want me to feel that way because he was so grateful that I came in and everything was. And I thought it was interesting anyway. I didn't think it was possible to lose track of where I was because it was so interesting. But that's just where people lose track sometimes. Yes. So I really had a very good time.